Hey, you found my podcast called How the Heck Have You Been, where I call up somebody from high school and talk to them about their college, their career, their lives, profound moments, all that kind of good stuff, because I really want to know. So let's get to it. All right, here we go. Episode 10 brings you my conversation with Liz Fontenot, a friend I've known and lived down the street from for just about as long as I can remember. We discussed her career path, our time together for all of K through 12 education, and we got a little more deep as well as we talked about losing loved ones and the importance of putting kindness out into the world. In the show notes, I put a link to the animal adoption group Liz volunteers with, Fort Worth Abandoned Animal Alliance, if you want to learn more. I hope you enjoy our conversation. There she is. Let's see. Is it? Hey, I can see you. Can you hear me?
I can hear you, yeah.
I can hear you. What's up?
Oh my gosh, so much and not much at the same time. Does that make sense?
That makes total sense. Especially when it's this hot out. It's like
yeah.
so much I could be doing, but so little I can do because it's 105 outside.
So little I want to do because it's 105 outside. Yeah.
Ugh, so terrible.
Yeah.
Let's get out of Texas. Let's go north.
Where are we going?
I don't know. Colorado. Let's go visit Spain in Colorado.
Let's go.
Sounds nice. How the heck have you been, Liz Fontenot?
Oh my gosh.
Or is it Fontenot or Fontenot?
I've known you for so long. You don't know that. It's Fontenot.
It is Fontenot.
You don't say the middle E and you don't say the last T. So
I didn't know that. So it's just Fontenot?
Yeah.
I'm glad you said that because I didn't actually know the E was. I think most people kind of clip it anyway, but now let's start there because that's French, right? And your family's from New Orleans or at least Louisiana, I know.
At least, yeah, Louisiana. It'd be a lot cooler if I could say my family was from New Orleans, but I'm very proud of our tiny little hometown most days. Yeah, we are from Louisiana. I was born there, and about 9 months or so after I was born, my family moved to Texas.
Any particular reason? What brought you all here?
It was 85 was when I was born, so we moved in 86. In 85, the oil fields kind of went down. My dad was working offshore at the time and lost his job. And then my mom had an uncle. It was my uncle. Her brother was in Texas, the only one of our family member here. And so we came up here for new opportunities.
Nice, and moved right down the street from me.
Yeah, eventually, we got there as quickly as we could because we were like, there are good people in this neighborhood, right? But we did move to, we lived in a few houses. One was in the cusp of Bedford-Hurst. You know how weird the borders of Hurst are. And then one was our backyard was literally Chisholm Park. We didn't have a actual back fence, and it just kind of opened up into the park. And then after there, we moved to the Sherrill house. So,
how old were you when you moved there? Because in my mind, you were there since kindergarten, but maybe not.
I was there since, I think I moved there when I turned 7 in that house.
Okay, so pretty early.
Yeah.
And that's right down the street. That's literally how many? 5 or 6 houses away?
Yeah,
just down Sherrill, right by the Northeast Mall, which has been coming up a lot.
Is it?
It's still in this podcast anyway.
Time. Yeah. So we're coming up in the conversation. Gotcha. Right. I was like, is it coming up? I mean, I don't think it's going anywhere, but I haven't been in so long. I honestly don't know what's there or not there or where it's going.
It looks busy, but yeah, I can't. It seems odd to go to a mall nowadays, right? I don't have any really good reason to do that. Maybe because I'm not a teenager and there's, it's a good gathering place, but
it's also just too people-y.
Yeah.
So there's not any store I could want to buy from there, I probably just buy online.
Yeah.
And unless I'm going to a movie there, I don't want to deal with the people and the parking and the whatever else. So
now, do you still have family in that house, or are you there now?
My brother and dad were living there. My brother, his partner, and my dad were living there. They were the last of our family to live there. They did live there for many years. And then maybe 6 or 7 years ago now, my brother sold it. And has been kind of moving around areas of Texas since then. So yeah.
Now,
Another house
where are
in,
you then now? Fort Worth, right?
I'm in South Fort Worth. Yeah, I work in Fort Worth and bought a house in 2019, and so
Yay.
I'm just living life in Fort Worth. Yeah.
Nice. And throwing baby showers for all of our high school friends.
Oh my God. Okay, so I get people that tell me all the time how like unusual it is that I still have such a large group of friends from high school, like very close. My close circle of friends are people I've known since middle school, high school. I have obviously new friends that have kind of been introduced to the group, but my core like friend group is are people that I've known since high school, and people are all the time like, "That's so weird. I like barely even talk to people I know from high school."
Right?
And you are making a podcast about how you don't talk to people from high school.
Well, to be fair, I do actually still. So I'm in a writing group that meets once a month with Lauren and Laura Danhoff now, but Denson and
Yeah.
Dupay. I still hang out with Toby quite a bit. We're
Yeah,
still we
awesome.
not as much as we used to, but I'm still pretty close with some of those people. And I honestly don't have many friends from college that I still hang out with. It wasn't like I made a bunch of friends in college, so I still have
Yeah.
some from high school and then some just adult friends that we've met through the years, with kids and stuff.
I think we just went to school with really good people.
Yeah,
Like
we did.
I just want to stay friends with these people. So I get it. And I'm glad to hear that you still hang out with Lauren, and Toby. That's exciting. Gosh, that's cool.
Which is funny because I told them about this podcast idea, and they're like, "Oh, we can come on." I was like, "Well, you could, but I know you still, so there's nothing to catch up on because we've already caught up on everything."
There's no how the heck have you been? I
I
already know
know,
that part.
but we might do like a special edition where I just talk about
Oh
what we do in writing group and stuff. But all right, so let's hit rewind all the way to 1991, I guess.
yeah. Oh,
That would be when we
okay.
started Donna Park Elementary School. You're the second. I interviewed Robert Williams, so I've already
Oh
talked to
my
him. I've known him
God.
since kindergarten as well. I still keep in touch with him, but
That's awesome. I
uh,
like in going through those pictures yesterday. I think I might have had every single class and grade with Robert. So like my kindergarten picture has Robert in it. So
nice. Yeah, I should go back. I only have 2 yearbooks from Donna Park. I have like fourth and sixth grade.
I have sixth grade, and I couldn't find them. I was trying so hard to find them
Yeah,
yesterday, and I
and I
couldn't.
don't
But
know. I don't have my senior yearbook from Bell. I have sophomore, junior.
okay.
I don't know if I got one or anyway. I can't imagine what happened
Sorry,
to it.
I cut you off. We are talking about
Oh
the
no, that's all
Donna
right.
Park days,
So you
but
and
yeah,
I were in peak English together for I guess all 6 years.
I actually didn't. I was not in peak at kindergarten. Like
Okay, so
I
until because I
started.
think they do screening like kindergarten and first, maybe second grade too.
I actually so it was I was in Miss Whiteman's like third grade class, and she's the one that recommended me to go get like tested for that.
Nice.
So it wasn't until third grade.
Okay. Well, I remember you there since kindergarten. That's how strong my
Good.
memories are of
I
you.
remember joining Peak and people being like, "Who are you? Why are you here?" Because we've all been here since kindergarten.
We're clicky. We're such a clique. What gives you
Oh
the
man,
rights? No, that's not my
yeah.
memory at all. I'm trying. Okay, so Robert Williams
Oh,
was in there
good.
with us. Steven, what was his
Uh
last
huh.
name?
Yeah. Because
He was your Romeo.
I just sent you that picture. What? Oh.
Remember we did Romeo
I
and Juliet?
Yes, but something happened with Steven at the last minute. Robert was Romeo.
Oh, okay. I do remember there are some people who
Brian.
couldn't remember
Brian?
their lines, so we had to cut a bunch. And then I think we did like an abbreviated like best of excerpted Romeo and Juliet or something.
Which, by the way, like we were too young to be doing that.
I
But
know, right?
anyway, it's fine.
Yeah.
Um, I think it's Brian. Bryant.
Oh, yes,
Brian.
Stevens. Brian
Hmm.
Stevens. That's why I said
Um,
Steven.
no, I think it was Stephen Bryant. I don't
Oh,
know.
maybe
I
I'm
don't know.
reversing it.
I remember Wes Jackson.
Oh
I
yeah.
remember Amy Bennett.
Amy,
Um,
yes.
Hillary was in that
Oh
picture, like the
yeah.
Egyptian like picture that Kayla Lorenz,
Kayla Lorenz, Hillary Holland. I remember Kayla lives
Janine.
really close to the park. I don't think Janine was in.
Yeah,
I don't think Janine was in Peak with us though. Furrow.
she was in that picture, and that
Oh,
was
okay,
from our
okay,
peak class.
nice.
Yeah.
My biggest regret of
But
that
yeah,
was the year before. I think it was our third grade year or something, or maybe it was our fifth grade year. Because I remember the grade above us did like this big model of the human brain, and you could walk inside of it and see all the parts of the brain. And we were going to
uh-huh.
do it, and it just fell through. I guess whoever the teacher was, I don't know if it was Miss Nix or Miss New, couldn't get the supplies or something. I was so disappointed we couldn't do that. It was such a
I I love having these kinds of conversations with people because I don't remember that. I mean, I remember the
right.
brain that we got to walk through, but I don't remember us like almost being able to do it. I love that you have this like strong memory of being disappointed about that. I don't remember that we were going to do it, but I do remember walking through it and thinking like this is the coolest thing ever. Basically like the gym equivalent of like getting under the big like
Oh
primary color
yeah, the parachute,
parachute sort of
and they still do that. It's funny how little changes sometimes.
thing. That's awesome.
The PE lessons they're using in elementary are still like
I don't
1972.
know. Like, I don't know what lesson we were supposed to learn from that other than like following directions. I know.
It was a fun, yeah, it was one of those. Maybe no, I don't know. Shaking, we all got a color. We shook the color. I remember that. You put the balls on it, they could
You
bounce
walk in
out. And
circles and then you quickly like sit under it. Yeah.
yeah.
Anyway.
Mrs. Fry, do you remember Miss Fry, the PE teacher? I think
Yeah.
we all thought she was mean. I remember her telling us once that we were all getting water from the water fountains, and everybody wanted like the cold water fountain. And she told us that actually cold water after exercising is worse for you than room temperature water, which can't be true. I think she was just trying to socially engineer us to not.
That's great.
I remember that years later thinking I shouldn't be drinking cold water after a workout, and then it finally occurred to me. She,
Probably just manipulating us. Yeah,
yeah.
I don't remember that either. That's so funny. I have vague recollections of her. I don't remember her being mean necessarily, but I do remember like sort of being afraid of her.
And then her assistant was
Um,
really nice. I remember that, but I can't
yeah.
remember her name. All right, I do have one strong memory of you in
Oh,
Peak, and it may not have been in Peak, but I'm just might be putting you there. All right, Titanic must have come out. It must have been sixth grade, fifth or sixth grade.
okay.
Uh, and I remember you telling this joke like, um, the scene. She said, "Oh, you know my favorite scene, or everybody's favorite scene, or maybe talking about the boys who watch it. Their favorite scene is the hand touching the glass of the car, right? When she like, remember her hand reaches up and she kind of smears.
Yeah.
And you were being ironic because obviously their favorite scene would be where you actually get to see Kate Winslet naked. And I remember being like, wait, what? And you're like, I'm just kidding. It's the nudity scene. I was like, oh, that's so, because I was too, like, it seemed like you were more mature. You were mature enough to say that joke and, like, be ironic about it. At the time, I was just, a sixth grader boy, like, clueless. I was like, oh, this is so,
Oh my
like,
god.
she's witty and smart. I actually could think through that joke. And it was just a weird memory.
I
I think about that every time that movie comes up.
Oh my god. That's hysterical. I don't I wouldn't like listening to you tell that story, I'm like, yep, that totally tracks. Like but I don't remember I remember that. So that's great. Yeah, I definitely have like always, I don't know, just tried to be funny, I guess. I don't know. So that totally I'm like, yeah, I'd probably make that joke.
Good times. All right. So then we went to her junior high together as well.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Picked up some more friends. Now, was Jessica Rader, now Lugo, was she at her? She was at her junior high, right?
Yep. Yep, that's where we met.
And then, because some of the people I interviewed, I had forgotten they went to Hearst. Like Matt Schoolfield was like, oh yeah, he was her junior high, and
Oh yeah, Schmatty. Yeah. That's where I met Matt, and became friends with Matt. I mean, honestly, like, I feel like this is gonna sound like, well, it's so sad, but I feel like, because our elementary school is separated between Hearst and
yes,
Bedford.
yeah,
And so I feel like I kind of went into seventh grade with like not a real close knit friend like group or like friend at all. And so Jessica just sort of like found me and like took me under her wing and was like, all of my friends can be your friends.
that's awesome.
So that's like how I met a bunch of, to this day, my current friends.
Well, we all need people like that too, especially if we're
Oh
not
my
as outgoing and social. Like it's nice to like have people just, you're my friend now. That happened to
yeah,
my wife
oh,
with one of her
for
close
sure.
friends. She was like, we're friends.
Thank goodness. Thank goodness for that. Uh, Backstreet Boy obsessed Jessica Rader. Yeah.
I mean,
I'm so I
there are worse things to be obsessed about.
no, but I mean I say that because that's like how we bonded. I just remember being in Mr. Rutherford's science
Oh
class,
no.
and uh, and I don't know how. Like I think it was Nick Carter's birthday or something, and he was like writing the date on the board, and she just was like, "It's Nick Carter's birthday," and I was like, "Another Backstreet Boy fan." Like,
What's his? Do you still remember it? What's the birthday?
no, I don't. She probably would. I
Yeah.
don't remember.
Okay. Mr. Rutherford, man. I don't want to.
That guy.
I don't want
That
to take
guy.
part in any smearing, but
Oh, I'm. I mean, I'm not going. But I'll
yeah.
just say. Let me just say. Um, he is the only demerit that I got in my entire school
What?
career. Yeah,
He
I
gave
think
you
we
a
only did like
demerit? I want to hear
he
this
gave me a
story.
demerit because he accused me of cheating, and I told him to shut up.
Shut your filthy mouth, Mr. Rutherford.
It was ridiculous, and actually, Robert Williams was involved in that.
Oh,
It
jeez.
was so like I think he had it out for me. I pushed back on him a lot because he was a ridiculous human being, and tried to make us do like really uncomfortable like things we weren't comfortable with. And that sounds weird. I'm not going into like this is not a like I'm shedding light onto like a CNN special or something, but
Yeah.
like I was very uncomfortable like the day that he brought the cow heart in or whatever, and I was like, I'm not gonna watch you do this. This is it makes me uncomfortable. And he was like, well, then you won't get a grade. And I was like, well, then I won't get a grade. And I like took my chair and I faced out the window the whole time. And so I think I was like a thorn to him.
Yeah.
And
Well, and
so there was
he would be the kind of guy who would be like knowing you're uncomfortable, making it more
yes,
gross and doing stuff to
yes,
make you
yeah,
feel more uncomfortable. And there was a lot of
100%.
uncomfortable moments in that room.
Yeah, so I definitely like kind of went out of my way to be a little bit of a thorn to him because of that. And then there was one day where we were taking a test and he was like, whenever you're done, just raise your hand and I'll have somebody around you like grade your test if I've already graded their test. And Robert was sitting right next to me and I had my hand up the whole time and he would like look at me and not come to me. He'd go walk around me
Jesus.
and go grade somebody else, and then he'd walk around me and go grade somebody else. And then finally Robert like turned to me and was like, he's already graded mine and I got 100, like do you want me to grade yours? And I was like, sure.
Might as
I
well.
gave Robert my test, and then when he came back up he immediately saw that Robert had my test and was
Yeah.
like, I didn't tell you could do that. You're cheating. This is cheating. Do you see how this is cheating? And I just went, shut up.
Dude, seriously?
And he was like, that's a demerit. And I was like, ooh, okay. Anyway, yeah.
Whatever.
The one and only, like, my parents raised me to be so respectful of teachers, adults, like leaders in general. He's the only teacher that I was just like that blatantly rude to because he was the worst. Anyway,
Yeah.
let's move on. My blood pressure is like,
No
no, I'm kidding.
defenses. No defense over here of him.
I'm
Her.
glad to know so many better teachers than him now, yourself included.
Well, thank you. I hope so. I hope so. Do more.
I,
Just do. Try to do more good than you do harm. Sometimes
that's right.
there
I
are
mean,
there are instances. It's like I'll go back and realize, oh, I was totally lying to the kids about this and didn't know that I was telling them something that just wasn't true. Like sometimes, I'll just have come on. You go to college and you pick up what you're supposed to learn, but then you also pick up just a bunch of myths and stuff that aren't really true along the way, and then you repeat some of it. You're like, oh, I just assumed I was right about that, and I wasn't. That's all right.
yeah, I mean, I feel like that's life though, and not
Yeah,
necessarily just teaching. Like even the cold water thing that you just talked about, like you took that as fact,
I know.
and for all you know, you could have shared that with other people as if it were fact. And it's we that's I think that's kind of the beautiful part is like getting older, you can kind of look back and see how you've grown and learned more, and like your eyes and mind have been open to like new things, and you're like, man, I was a dumb kid. Like I
Yeah.
was, whew.
Yep. There's a lot of that. I talked to, I think it was the Spain episode. It was like, I just, looking back on junior high and high school, it just like feels like you were just dumb kids. You thought you were so smart and you weren't. You try to apply
Oh my
that to modern day. Like, what do I think I know today? That's really not true.
Oh gosh. I mean, I don't know about you. I feel like in eighth grade I had this moment where I just sort of like thought that I figured the world out. Like I was like, oh, I'm in eighth grade. I know who I am, and I know, whatever. And then looking back, I'm like, it's weird because I feel like in a lot of ways I'm still the same person that I was in the eighth grade. Because luckily I did know myself pretty well, but in so many other ways I'm like a completely different human. Like I'm not even the same. But yeah, it's funny that I remember you have those moments as a kid where you're like, oh yeah, I've got everything figured out. I
And
know.
there's something, yeah, it's like, where does that come from? Why do all teenagers have to go through this phase of shut up, dad, I know everything now? It's like, I mean, I guess it's necessary for human development, but it's looking back, it's like, man, this is dangerous to be, especially because that's like, here's when we give you a driver's license, and you think you know everything and you don't, and you're hormonal and your emotions are driving every decision. Let's put you in this huge machine and let you drive 70 on the freeway.
Yeah, I don't know who decided that was a like good timing for all of those things to collide. I don't know.
It's
Um,
scary, man. Thinking about it now, it's really scary. My kids are only 8 and 5, and I'm like, I don't want them driving at 16.
I mean, they don't have to,
That's true, but
because I had friends that didn't get their driver's license at 16. You're just that just be okay with your kid being that one that needs a ride everywhere.
yeah,
It happens. There's worse things.
there are worse things, and I'm just wondering, is the utility of them being able to drive themselves going to outweigh the fear of them? By that time, they'll all be self-driving cars anyway, so it doesn't matter.
Oh yeah. So true. Maybe even flying cars. No. But yeah, what was I gonna say? I think it'll come down to more of it being like how much are you willing to be inconvenienced versus worried
Yeah.
about them. Because I know when I got my car, it was definitely like my parents were very glad to not have to like pick me up at school and get me to this and get me to that or get me to work or whatever the case might be. I could just drive myself, and they were like, oh, okay.
Finally.
Yeah.
Well, especially like marching band started at, I think we got up at 5:30 and had to be at Pennington at 6, and so I'm sure my parents were very glad to let us drive ourselves that early.
I had so many friends that were in bands, and I wasn't. Well, so seventh grade, first year at Hearst, first like semester at Hearst, we got our schedules, and I did not have PE
Oh,
like everyone else did, and I had band and choir. And I went to the office and I told them like, oh, there's a mistake. I don't have PE. I have two electives, and they were like, the principal, Mr. Griffin, was he our? I think
at
that
Hearst,
sounds
I
right.
don't know. I have no idea.
Hurst, yeah. He was like, "Is there a specific like sport that you're really good at?" And I'm like, "Well, I'm pretty decent at soccer. I wanted to play volleyball, and I guess soccer. You didn't really play soccer until like ninth grade anyway." So he was like, you know what? Just enjoy band and choir."
Jeez.
so for 1 year, I got to be in band and choir.
What did you play?
And
Because the seventh grade was like the sectionals where we were all learning the instrument. What was your instrument?
yeah, French horn.
Oh, that I think I remember that now. Yeah.
I actually like am really proud that I was like a very proud French horn player. But I ended up having to choose, and I loved being in choir, so I chose choir.
It makes me wonder. I wonder what the smartest choice would be, just in terms of like financial future. Like, can you make more money having singing ability or French horn? It's got to be singing, but even that's like,
My little like seventh grade brain was not thinking that
no,
way.
I know, I know.
It was just like, which one do I have more fun in? But like Aaron Dunn was French horn with me, and Scott Kemper, and who else? Cassie something. Anyway, yeah, it was like five of us. It was a small group.
I'm trying to remember. I feel like I was in choir. What did we do? Choir? Maybe just like sixth grade choir. Because I remember. Oh, do you remember Standing Room Only? We did the sixth grade musical.
Yeah.
That
Yep.
was fun. I think about that. Brady Potter was. What's the guy's name? The Inca Dinka Doo with the big nose. What's that?
I don't remember the
What's that
name.
guy's name? The celebrity. I can't think of it. It's right on the tip of my tongue. But that was a fun musical. I remember standing next to Christian Tobler, and we would screw around all the time. And They had
Oh
the
my
Send in the
gosh,
Clowns. Remember the Send in the
you
Clowns
interesting.
song?
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
And he
yeah. I so weird coincidences. My brother's very close like friend has this what's the game? Oh, it just left my brain. And no offense to anyone who listens to this later, but it's very much an old lady game. You like roll the dice and like I can't
is it
remember now.
Yahtzee?
It's not Yahtzee.
Okay. No offense to you. I love me some Yahtzee.
It's like a canasta. It's like a, like groups
Backgammon?
of like no.
I'm trying to think of
But anyway,
dice.
so
Yeah.
she's young. Like she's like my brother's age, so like in her late 30s, and but she's part of this group one way or another. And for Christmas, they will like invite outsiders into the group. Like you could invite one person for this Christmas potluck
It's
game.
very exclusive.
And my brother got invited by his friend, and then they needed another person. So my brother was like, "Hey, just like come and be the like next person,
Uh
because it has to be 4 people at a table." And I was like, "Oh my god, I don't know any of these people." Well, turns out Miss Rogers and Miss Gallen are
uh
in this group. And
what?
so I got to like see our old music and art teacher.
They still so Miss Gallen and Miss Rogers are still like friends and playing.
Yeah,
That's crazy.
yeah.
What
I
dice
was
game is it? Okay, you got to explain. You got
I
to
don't know.
describe the dice game to me now.
Gosh, I can't. I mean, it's 4 people at a table, and you roll. You like one person will keep rolling the die until they hit a certain combination.
There is one. There's a game called well, it's like oh crap, where you can like
No,
bust out. You'd roll until you.
I'm gonna like Google this while
Yeah,
we're
you should Google it while
anyway.
we're talking.
But yeah,
That's
definitely
funny though.
got to see them, and I'm like friends with Miss Gallen on Facebook now. Because of that, like I was like, oh, I'm gonna add you on
Yeah,
Facebook.
I ran into her at a restaurant, Bailey's. I don't think it's open anymore. The one over on like Harwood. We're at breakfast. I ran into her. I think she
Uh-huh.
was out with her mom.
Bunko.
Bonko or Bunko with a U, right? Bunko.
It's Bunco. Bunko.
I've never played that. So
I have
now I'm like
one.
fascinated at this group. Like, what? How did this group congeal? Is your brother's friend about his age? Because they're like a generation
Yeah,
older than that. So I'm like
yeah,
wondering how
yeah.
this
It's
group got
definitely
together.
like she's kind of the odd man out age wise. Like
Oh,
she's
okay,
she's much younger than them, most of them, and so I don't know. I don't know if it was like church ladies that got together, or I have no idea.
that's funny.
But
Bunko. I
yeah.
haven't seen Miss Rogers since probably sixth grade. What is she? How is she doing?
Well, this was a few years ago, but at the
Yeah,
time, well, doing well, and she remembered me. And so yeah, it was just it was good to see them, and it's just a small world.
now we had okay at Hearst. We there was a math teacher, Miss Rogers, too, right? But you're talking about the music, the choir
I am
teacher.
talking about the
Yeah,
music teacher at Donna Park.
right. It's funny because when you're in elementary school, you imagine your teachers as all like ancient already. And so in my mind, they should all be like 88 years old by now. And they're not like, they could have been 36 when they taught us. And to
Right,
us, it was
right.
like just the same. So like, I'm always flabbergasted that adulthood lasts a long time and everybody, is still,
And kids truly have like no sense of age or like how old people are.
yeah,
If you are even like significantly older than them, you're old.
right.
Like if you're around the same age as them, even if you're like maybe 10 years older, like, oh, you're around this, like you're a
Yeah,
kid like me, kind of thing. I was we're just jumping all over the place.
that's all right.
Hopefully this isn't ruining your
No, no, no.
I was the Trojan Talk mentor for Jess for several years. So Trojan Talk is like their what did we have about? I always forget the name of it. Like your homeroom that you have like
Oh
once a month.
yeah, I can't remember the name either. It's like,
Hmm.
yeah, what was it? They kept changing every year too. For a while, it was like 15 minutes at the beginning of the day. I can't remember what it was called. Something time.
Yeah, but it's the equivalent at Trinity, and I was her Trojan Talk mentor, and she had just gotten some new technology. So normally I would show up and I'd be like, "Oh, hey, Jess, can you play these 2 videos, and then we're gonna go through this exercise." And that day, she's like, "Oh, here," and she like handed me basically this iPad, and was like, "You can start the video from here." And I was like, "Oh, okay, okay." So, and I will admit, I'm tech savvy, but I do not like just being like thrown a device and being like, figure this out in front of everybody. I need time to like to soak it all in and figure things out the hard way. But so I'm like getting the video to play. So I was like, whoa, success. I put the iPad down, and then the sound is coming out of the speakers in the projector and the iPad, and it's driving me nuts. I pick it up and I'm like trying to figure out how to turn the sound off of the iPad. And in doing that, I just like keep restarting the video. I got out of the video. Somehow I went to a different video altogether. And I was just like, and the kids are watching me. These high schoolers are watching me. And one of the kids in the front row, who's like just one of those kids, he was like, okay, boomer. I
No.
swear flames came out of my ears and eyes and mouth. And I just was like, did you just call me a boomer? I couldn't
I'm a
handle it.
millennial.
He was like, I was just kidding. And I was like, you do not joke about things like that.
But yeah, man, when the teenagers insult you, it can sometimes cut deep if you depending on the insult.
Oh
Yeah.
man, I totally felt like I was that older person trying to be like a cool hip teenager, like, oh yeah, I can hang with the cool kids. And also, I have so much profound knowledge to share with you because I'm only like, 12 years older than you.
Yeah.
Um,
But
so
also just like they screw up their technology all the time as well. And the thing that's funny to me about teenagers is they have no idea where memes and like phrases come from. Like they'll say things, but they'll still, and I'm interested in like, I guess maybe this is my English background, but I'm like interested in, where does that come from? Like when people are dabbing, right? I'm like, that's from this and this. And they're like, oh, I didn't know that. It was like, you don't even know your own culture. You don't even know your own pop culture. Come on.
Yeah. I don't know. I think some of the curiosity, like I am forever curious about things like that too. I jokingly I was talking to Jenny Horsley, who we also went to high school with, that if they ever made a dating app based off of like your Google searches, I would get the weirdest matches. Because probably 80% of my Google searches are like, where does this come from? Define this word. Or just like looking up kind of historical things, but a lot of it is words like that I want to make sure that I'm using correctly. And I'm like, who else? I don't know.
Who else Googles
I need someone who's interested in who has a good vocabulary.
Because I was writing a little bit of like murder mystery stuff, and so a lot of my searches a couple years ago were, what are clever ways to kill people? What are perfect crimes of not getting caught? Famous murders. Yeah. Yep. You never know what that algorithm's going to put together for you.
Oh yeah, and that's what I was telling her. I watch a lot of, I'm a white girl in America, a millennial white girl in America. I watch a lot of like serial killer documentaries.
Yeah. Wait, what else? Okay, millennial white girl in America. So Grey's Anatomy?
No.
No. Okay, I'm trying to think of just like the most stereotypical. Dawson's Creek.
Oh yeah, when it was
naturally Friends.
Oh yes, yeah.
Although what was it? Friends and The Office. I remember but maybe about 5 years ago, a lot of my high school kids were watching like reruns of Friends and The Office. I'm like, oh, it's coming back.
Yeah, they put it several years ago. They put Friends, like all of the episodes, on Netflix, I think, and that's when they kind of were like, oh, Friends. Because I know my niece I went over to her house one day and was like, are you watching Friends?
What's this? And it is funny watching sitcoms with canned laughter now because they're so rare. It's like, oh yeah, I forgot they forced us to know when to laugh every time they made a joke.
Yep. Oh man, no, but I think just kind of going back to that like boomer reference, like kids just they don't have any idea of age. They don't, like you said, they don't know the meaning behind things or like the source of things. I think some of the curiosity is kind of gone. They're just like, oh, okay, like I kind of get what this word means, that's good enough. Like whereas like I'm constantly still to this day looking up the meaning behind things or the definition of things, the source of things.
Yeah, man, half the battle is just getting kids interested. That struck me anew the other day when I brought up a topic that I brought up kind of some of the culture war stuff because we were talking about rhetoric and persuasion. and they're like, what's culture war? I was like, wait, what? You don't even. I assume like they would be interested in, stuff that's so visceral. I'd be like, oh, maybe that's just, teenagers aren't even tapped into that part of the zeitgeist.
Well, even like, obviously, I think each generation kind of has their own like big life-changing event that happens in the world. And like, obviously 9/11 happened when we were sophomores.
Yep.
And there, when Jess and I were talking one day and she was like, I have kids who were not born when
Yep.
that happened.
That was a heavy moment for me too.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
So she's like, I'm talking to them about this thing that's like, that weighs so heavily on me and made such an impact on my life. And they're just like,
Yeah.
I don't care.
It's ancient history to us.
No. Yeah.
Yep.
Weird. It's just like, I don't know. Because I feel like, I don't know, maybe I'm wrong and maybe I'm like too puffed up or whatever, but I feel like I care about other older historical things. Like, it's not like I'm like, oh yeah, like Hitler, whatever.
Whatever, Hitler.
That's so old now. Like, no, like I'm like, I still care and can at least be like empathetic to how impactful that.
But did you care in high school?
I feel like I did.
You might have. I know I didn't. I mean, I had some pretty strong history teachers. Shout out to Mr. Washman. Shout out to Coach Fuller. I don't know if you had either of those two.
I didn't.
You didn't have Washman? Oh, he was such an icon. But still, even at the time, I was like, I'm really fascinated now by it. In fact, I'm kind of on a history kick now, wanting to go read some more. I'm trying to read War and Peace. You may have seen my Facebook post about.
Oh my gosh! Yeah,
I want to be the first person to have ever finished the whole book. But like all the Russian history is so fascinating, and then I'm reading my daughter a little kid's version of Tale of Two Cities because that was one of my favorite books.
Nice.
And it's like, they kind of mention the American Revolution and how that one was so different from the French Revolution. I'm like, I want to go read about this and learn more about, everything leading up to my birth. But as a high schooler, I was like, nah.
Yeah. I think I remember, well, so I had, who did I have? I had some not great history teachers. I'm not going to name any names, but I also had Nancy George, who was fabulous.
Yes, never had her, but I had the other
Sylvester,
Emily George.
For a minute was great. If you want to talk to somebody about history, you should interview Jessica Lugo. Because,
is that what she teaches?
Yeah. But she's also just like, she just loves it. She loves the historical politics, historical wars, battle. Like, I mean, that's what she majored in. And she still like, she goes on these trips and takes kids from school to like, just this year they went to Ireland and I think Scotland for a hot second, and then
is that
UK,
the
and did it for
is that the EF tours? There's a group that does it. Like they just reach out to teachers, and basically you get to go for free if you get a certain amount of kids to sign up.
That's what hers is. Yeah. So, but I think it's just like, it's so cool that she gets to do it, and it's cool that like she's also getting to learn, about these places. She's always been really interested in. So anyway, she's definitely more of a history buff than I am.
That's awesome. And she's teaching at Trinity?
Yeah.
Still? Nice.
Yep.
I mean, I feel like she's kind of trading, like kind of a trader for.
I know, it was so hard when she applied there. I was like, how could you?
Like, well, because I'm a normal, mature adult who needs a job, and
and I mean, like, she knew a couple of teachers who were there, and so of course, can't fault her for using her connections, right, to get a job, especially her first job out of school. So.
Well, for the rare listener of this podcast who won't know that Trinity is the sister school, the rival school to our alma mater, LD Bell.
The other HEB high school that shall not be named. No,
I still can't get over the fact that, and this may just be immature, but like, it always baffled me that they were the Trojans, which is a common condom brand, and I'm like, that's just too far. Like. Why would you do that to a bunch of high schoolers and have your mascot be? I'm sure it was named before the brand came out, but still, because I remember a couple of pep rallies at Bell, they made some jokes about it, like in the skit or whatever.
Sure. Yeah, I was like, ooh, that's I'm sure pretty. No teenage boy missed an opportunity to make that joke. Yeah. But Yeah, I mean, I don't know. You can't go back in time and say like,
Change them.
we should
Yeah.
probably call like Trojans in general something else. Who cares if they came from Troy? Like,
It's just it was
um,
always so unfortunate to me. I was like, yeah,
yeah, I mean, it's definitely interesting. And then like their female, like the Raiderettes or the Troy Anns. So I don't know, like the male female nomenclature there never really made sense to me, but Trojan and
what else would it
Troyan,
be? Yeah, Trojanas, the
Trojanet. I don't know.
Trojanet. Yeah,
I don't know.
that's funny. All right, let's get back to you
Or,
biographically wise. So I don't know. We didn't talk much about. Really haven't talked much about LD Bell. Or did you do choir all through high school, or what were you
I
involved
did,
in there?
yeah. I did choir through Hearst and high school, through my senior year. Loved all of that. You know, it's I know that our band was kind of the like the shining star
Yeah,
of the
sucked up all the
school,
oxygen in the room.
but we had a decent choir too. We won a lot of awards. If you'd ever go in the choir room, you'd get to see a good number of trophies covering the walls.
Nice.
Miss Rexroth was great at what she did. I mean, I don't envy her job. I can't even imagine having to wrangle that many kids and then make them sound decent.
Mm-hmm.
But we had a lot of fun. So yeah, I look back and I'm like, I wonder how different my life would have been if I had chose band instead of choir or tried to do both. I know Casey Latham, she well no, she's not Latham anymore, Muckley. She did band and choir up until I think senior year. And though I was like, I don't know how you even accomplished that.
Yeah,
That's
she did.
so
Well,
much.
she did two marching seasons, and then she said she dropped after the her junior marching season.
Oh, okay.
After that, but yeah, that would be tough. And I know like Garrett Rosser and people tried to do football and band for a while, and I think he ended up, if memory serves, which it probably doesn't, but I think he just did band after freshman or sophomore year.
Well, and at I think our senior year, he was in choir.
Oh,
I
okay,
know he
okay,
was in choir. I don't know what else he
yeah,
was in.
he was in band all because he was section leader senior year for tubas. But you mentioned that trying to wrangle the kids, and I was thinking about that the other day. Like marching band would have been fine because all the kids are going to exercise, and it's so regimented. But during concert season, a lot of it was just us sitting, waiting for other sections to be tucked. Like we're learning to play a song, and I'm like, man, it must have been hard. Like I don't remember there ever being any behavior problems, but it was just like especially the tubas. We were in the back of the room. There are just four of us. We're always like goofy boys and like screwing around in the back of the room. Like I'm just amazed we were able to sit there and do it for a whole class period and not get bored out of our skulls.
I mean, I the same thing, for choir because there were definitely like if she wasn't coaching or instructing our section, I was an alto, Jessica, for example, was a soprano. We sat on opposite sides of the room of each other, and if she's working with another group, then you're kind of just sitting there. And there were definitely times where we also were just like silly teenage girls and got bored. And um, one time in particular, she's gonna kill me, but we like had this battle going back and forth across the choir room, pretending to like not shoot anyone, but like shoot at each other.
Yeah, yeah,
Like
pretend.
I between two girls' heads, right? So like I'm sitting in the third or second row, and I've got two girls here, and I'm just like, pew, pew, pew. And then Jessica like gets a bigger gun out, and she like, but we're doing this silently. And then each time the other person tries to like outgun the next person.
Nice. Yeah.
So it ended up going to like I think I threw a grenade or something, and then Jessica tried to do a bazooka, which normally would go on your shoulder, but
Uh,
she put it between her legs for some reason. And I was like, "What was that?" And she was like, "A bazooka," and I was like, "No, bazooka up
you know,
here, like on your shoulder."
they call it a crotch rocket. No, that's the motorcycle, Jessica.
For years we joked about. I was like, like
That's
anyway,
awesome.
and we tried to do it without like Rex wrote seeing it, because
Yeah,
we're bored and like just being mischievous teenage
yeah,
girls. So yeah, it was not just the boys that
that's
got
funny.
bored.
Well, but at the same time, I think about it a lot. Like it was kind of a what's the word I'm looking for? It was a valuable time just playing the same song over and over and kind of perfecting it. And you may have had the same experience with singing. It's like there's a benefit to like the hyper focus, the hyper intent work on a certain piece of music. And uh, so I have fond memories. I'm just amazed that I do have fond memories and that it wasn't, a bunch of 16 to 18-year-olds, sitting still and focusing that much on one thing. It's kind of cool.
Yeah, no, I mean, I think, just it kind of helps you form that muscle memory. I mean, at least for us having to use our mouth as our muscle, I guess. But I, to this day, remember certain parts of certain songs that we knew in choir, that we learned in choir. And even Casey, who was like our, leader, basically, like junior director, um, I'll like, I mentioned to her that I still remembered parts of La Llorona, and she was like, "How do you remember that?" I'm like, "I don't know, just
Nice.
probably just doing it so many times over and over and over again to learn it, and I still have it just drilled into my brain."
Well, that's the one. Is that the same La Llorona from Coco, from the Disney Pixar movie? Have you seen
It's
that?
not. Yeah, I have, but it's a while. It's been a while. I'm pretty sure that the song that we sang, I think I remember hearing that in Coco and like the words being the same or similar.
But maybe different
Um,
melody.
but it's definitely different because the choral piece that we had no accompaniment, like it had no
Okay.
musical
Yeah.
piece to it, and our accompanist like just made it up, like not as she went, she made it up in advance.
Yeah.
But so I don't think they would be exactly the same, but it's probably pretty close.
Wonder if there are any recordings of y'all doing that out there somewhere. I need to look
I
in and
don't
see if there's some
know. Oh
LD Bell
gosh.
choir recordings. I'll have to do some digging, do some hard nosed reporting, and uncover some of
Yeah,
that.
let me know what you find out.
What year would that have been? 2003, maybe.
um,
Our senior year was 2003 to four.
we did it. I think it was either no, I think it was senior year because that was when I was in the full, like I was in acapella. Not acapella. I don't know. I was in the group with everyone, so it
Yeah.
would have been senior year, 2000, 2003, 2004.
Nice. I'll look. I'll have to find it. Now that's my task.
Oh
I have a little
god.
while. Quick update. After 5 minutes of lazily Googling, I was unable to find any of the recordings from that time period. Now back to the show. All right, let's go to
Um,
let's go to college years then. Unless you had any other high school memories to share.
um, I mean, sure, but I don't want to. I don't want to take up the whole time on that. I'm like, I have very fond memories from high school in general. It doesn't mean that I'd want to go back and redo it in the least bit, but
Really? I don't
uh,
know. I don't know.
I don't think so. I'm very grateful, like getting into my 20s and especially now my 30s, like I'm just like, oh, this is much better than I had a lot of this is like gonna get deep for a second. You
Let's do
ready?
it.
I had a lot of like self-value and like you know, self-esteem issues when I was younger, even though I still obviously have great friends. And we had a lot of fun in high school. Um, Actually, like pretty innocent fun, which was great. Like to not have to look back and be like, oh God, what did we do? But I am so grateful for like the growth that I've had just like as a human after high school, like getting out of that environment. So I would not do it again.
Well, it might be fun as like a simulation if you didn't have to, if nothing mattered, like if there were no consequences, or like if the decisions you made didn't actually affect your future, be like, I could have done that differently.
Maybe like have like a 17 again, sort of like
Yeah, that'd be kind of
going
weird
back
though.
with the knowledge that I have now.
You know what's
Maybe.
coming though. You know what's coming. All the virtual reality. They're going to be able to like mine through our memories and do a virtual reality relive of.
Oh my God, I hope not.
Go
I
back to
do
that
not
choir
volunteer.
room. Go back to the.
I do not volunteer.
That'd be a
I
trip.
do not don't want to have, as like I said, as much as I do have very fond memories of high school, I would like to keep them just as they
Just
are.
as memories.
Yeah.
Well, and you were also probably erasing a lot of the bad parts too.
Oh God,
Uh,
I'm sure.
I'm sure when we go back, we're like, oh, I forgot about that. I forgot how much.
Yeah, I forgot
Uh,
about how much. Yeah, no. Like I said, I did have some teachers that I didn't really care for, so I'm like, no, I don't want to go back through that at all. But no, so yeah, we graduated, and I actually like I wanted a taste of kind of what freedom would be like. I actually moved in with my godparents in Louisiana for that summer.
Oh wow.
And then, so I was in Louisiana the whole summer of 2004. And I was working. So I wasn't just like there on vacay. I
Right.
was actually like working two jobs. I worked at Target. So I worked at Target in high school and
I
transferred to a
remember
Target
that. I remember that now. Yeah.
and transferred to a Target in Louisiana and worked there. And then also worked at my aunt's daycare, which was a lot of good lessons for me.
Oh, but
Um, and then came back in like August and moved out on my own. I got my first apartment. I was going to TCC and working full time at an alarm company. Um, and it was honestly just my brother worked there, and I needed a job, so he
yeah.
sort of put a good word in for me. Um, I worked midnight shifts while I would work from midnight to 8 a.m.
Oh
and then I would go to class until like
no,
noonish.
that's rough.
And then I'd go home and sleep and just do it over and over and over again. So needless to say, that going to class didn't last very long for me. I think probably after the first two semesters, I was like, I'm just gonna take a little break,
Yeah.
and that break turned into like a long break. And so I was still working. The alarm company was called Sonatrol. It's actually kind of cool. They had, and this was long before the alarm systems of today, but we had audio, so we could hear like break-ins
Oh wow.
hopefully before they happened. In some
Yeah.
cases, before they actually got into the building or things like that. So, um, I had a lot of fun at that job. There were times where it wasn't very fun. I have again like a lot of good memories of like just it was just really cool. Like you almost felt like you were the police, because you were hearing it happen. You're hearing like you could hear the break in. You could hear the police show up. You could hear them sending in the
Hmm.
canines. You could hear them, everything. So um really neat experience to work there. It wasn't necessarily the easiest job, but learned a lot.
Well, how often would there be break? Like, would there be at least a break-in every night that somebody would hear, or was it a lot of
Somewhere,
just waiting?
yeah. So the workstation that I worked in, like we had stations that kind of covered either like one large city. So, like for example, Fort Worth and the
Hmm.
surrounding areas had its own workstation. Um, Whereas like there was a couple of cities in California that were sort of lumped in together, like San Diego and something else. There was a Baton Rouge workstation. There was like a Tulsa, Omaha workstation or whatever. So somebody in the room was getting a break in a night, like
Yeah, that's
around the
crazy.
country. Yeah. Um, and I mean, there were good things where, like I said, like we got to help apprehend people before they even caused any real
Yeah.
damage, before they stole anything, before they did anything. And then there were other times where things didn't work out well, or we heard live holdups happen, people get shot,
Hmm.
people get
Oh.
whatever. So it's definitely interesting. And when people see that like on my resume, they're normally like, oh, tell me all about this.
I think I will.
But yeah, it was interesting. I learned a lot about myself. um I moved on to do like data entry there, and then the company got bought out and we all got laid off, so I was fairly young. That was in, oh gosh, maybe like 2009. Yeah, 2009. I got laid off. um yeah. And then, so I had no job. I was supposed to be getting some compensation from the government, and that actually wasn't happening due to some error on their end. Luckily,
No,
we
it couldn't have been on their end, Liz. Come on. Must have been.
had yeah, it was kind of crazy, but luckily we had enough warning ahead of time that I was able to sort of put away some savings. Um, and then, maybe 3 or 4 months after getting laid off, I finally found a new job. And it's actually the company that I work at now.
Oh wow. So what's that?
In
What are you doing there?
between then, oh, sorry. In between then, I did end up going back to school part time. So I took like this extended break, and I so clearly remember somebody at Sonatrol, like I was doing something, like we were decorating for Christmas or something, and I had cut out these little like chain link snowflake. It was something stupid.
Yeah.
And this woman was like, "Oh, you're so creative and you could do all these like cool artsy things. You really missed your calling." And I was like, like it was just enough to be like, I'm still very young and I have a lot of time in my life. I haven't missed my I'm going back to school right now. So it kind of lit a fire under my butt and I started going back to school.
Man, you never
And
know
then
what little incident will be that incident. But yeah.
no, it's crazy. And then got the new job at the company that I work for now is an online lending company, but the name has changed since I started. But I've been there since August of 2009. And I started in the call center there and talking to people, which is hard. Um,
Well, you're doing great so far.
um,
I mean, this conversation's been
well,
fine.
oh, thanks. No, I've definitely worked on. I'm just saying, you're pleasant to speak to,
Oh, thank
and we're
you.
like catching up and having good like a good time. When I had
Yeah.
you have just back to back phone calls of people like screaming at you and cursing you
Oh,
out.
yeah.
That's not so pleasant, and it's hard to do for a long time, like
Yeah. Well, why would
long.
they be upset though? Is it like is it this is at the loan place?
Yeah.
So they're just mad about
Um.
money, mad about
Yeah. We took their payment out, and this is one of my favorite stories to tell. Because I'm a terrible person.
do it.
So this woman called in and she's very upset that we took her payment out. And so I have, and I'm probably using it a little bit now, but maybe not. I don't know. I definitely have like a customer support voice that I put on. And if you know me at all, it sounds super condescending. But
Yeah.
these people don't know me. They just think this is my voice. So I
Right.
would answer the phone and be like, "Thank you for calling Payday Loans. This is Liz. How may I assist you today?" And
That's pretty good.
and then she's like, "You took a payment out of my account." And so I was like, "Okay, can I get your, first and last name so I can pull up your account?" I pulled it up and then I looked, I was like, "Let me take a look and see when your payment is scheduled." And I said, "Oh, actually your payment was scheduled for, so that's why the payment came out of your account." And she was like, "But I didn't have the money there and y'all just be taking money when we don't have the money and this is not right." And I was like, "Ma'am, like I can send you a copy of your loan agreement. It's the schedule is right there in front of you and you agreed to it and this was the day that we were supposed to take your payment out. But now I'm negative in my bank account. I can't pay for my kids, like blah blah blah." And I was like, I definitely I hear you. I'm sorry to hear that." And then she popped off and said, like, "I'm calling an attorney because y'all are not legitable." And at this point, I've been on this call for a while, and our supervisors kind of have these, things that
Yeah.
say, like, "Oh, this person's been on the phone for a long
Uh-huh.
time." So my boss was standing right behind me, and I was like, "Ma'am, if you want to go to an attorney, that is your choice. However, I would recommend printing out a copy of your loan agreement with all of the dates of your payment schedule, and they will tell you that we are completely legitable." And my supervisor was just like, "Liz," and I was like, "She used that word first. Like,
I'm
what? Do
just
you want me to
using
correct her?" And
common
then
language.
it would seem like I was being rude.
There's a guy at I used to work at Office Depot, and he came into the copy center and wanted something lamerized. He's like, "Do you have that lamerizer?" Like, yes, I think
Like
we have what you were looking for.
laminating something, but like with a contour, maybe. Like,
Yeah, some glam, some glitter.
yeah,
That's
exactly.
great. Oh my gosh.
Yeah. So
Uh,
no, it got to be hard to talk to those people all the time. So I kind of started like trying to figure out what I could do next. And fortunately, the company that I work at is has become a bigger company, but it was sort of smaller when I started, and that allowed for me to, if I had interest in like something that another team was working on, I could go and ask to spend time with that team and learn what they were doing and see if it was something I was interested in, or if you were like, if I was doing something well and somebody saw that, they were like, "Hey, I'd like you to apply for this job." So in a fairly short period of time, I went from doing customer service to doing handling like bankruptcies and debt consolidations to doing UAT, so like user acceptance testing, so basically like QA. Um, so as our company would put out new products, we have to test it to make sure that everything worked, not only like as the product team was expecting it to, but just like the customers couldn't like get in the back door and do
Right.
monkey
Right.
things or whatever. So I helped build out our UAT team. Um, and I loved doing that. I loved trying to break things or like, like
Yeah.
pushing. and
Yeah.
and to me, I've always loved puzzles, and so it was kind of like putting the puzzle pieces of something together, making sure that it worked, and then trying to just bust it up and see what I could do, like how I could make it go wrong. So it was really fun for me.
How could the
um,
how could the most inept user possibly screw this up,
exactly,
and we can
because
prevent it now?
I am not trying to talk badly about our customers, but I will say the ones that call in are
Yeah.
typically not like your
Right.
like brightest and best,
Yeah.
right? They're either senior citizens who need help. I had a woman who literally kept calling her mouse a click box, and I wasn't sure
Oh
what she was
no.
talking about.
But
I was
that's
like,
never
she
been
was
the name of that though. That's the thing. It's always been
right.
a mouse.
She was like, my click box isn't working. My click box isn't working, and I was like, I don't know what that means. I can't troubleshoot a click box. She was like, that thing you use to like move things around on your computer, and I was like, oh, you're talking about your mouse. And she said, oh, that's disgusting.
Oh no. I worked at a call center for it must have been the summer after my junior year. But I think Jessica Rader might have been at that same call center. I don't know. There was
I
somebody from high school, and it's now occurring to me. It was called CSS, Centralized Showing Service.
I think that sounds familiar. I think
I'll have
that
to
she
reach out to
did
her and
work
see
there.
because I remember being thankful, and I don't even know how I learned about that job. It was a weird experience because it was my first job ever, and I don't remember how I learned about it. Maybe a friend from high school, and it was just us calling either homeowners or real estate agents to set up showings for their house, right? So you didn't have to call the person directly, and we could just put it in our little system, little database. Hey, there's an open house here. Here's the code to get in to show the house, and so we were just kind of the middleman. But I remember working there for a summer, and yeah, call centers are a trip.
Oh yeah,
It's
yeah.
it's the most I don't know. It's what's the word I'm looking for? Like the Matrix, right? There was a reason he was in those cubicles in a call center in the Matrix. It was like the most confining, and you're just sitting there on a phone all day by yourself, talking to somebody. It's a weird job.
For sure. I mean, and then when you're not, then it's like this atmosphere. I don't know about your office, but office sort of like call center atmospheres are also very like gossipy. Like when you don't have
Yeah.
anything to do, they want to chit chat and whatever. And I'm so uninterested. So I was fairly kind of kept to myself when I was in the
Hmm.
call center, just because I'm like, I don't care if Joe and Susan are like going to lunch together every day. Like I don't, whatever. So I'm just like, I'm just here to get yelled at and then get a paycheck and like go home.
But I mean, honestly, Susan could do so much better than Joe, right? I mean, she's
Right.
better than that.
Right.
Joe.
Um,
Anyway,
Joe,
Sloppy
that
Joe.
guy.
There's a reason they call him Sloppy Joe.
Oh yeah, you're right. You're right. No, I did get a couple marriage proposals, just like random weirdos that are like, "Man, you're so patient and nice. Are you married? Do you want to
Oh
marry me?"
no.
I had a woman who was trying to get me to marry her son. I had a guy who called in and told me the weirdest things, and then told me that he was friends with Chuck Norris. And I was like, if you're friends with Chuck Norris, why are you trying to get $100 loan? I don't
Yeah.
understand. Uh,
Let's
so,
not be that good
I
of
mean,
friends.
I got, some of them weren't necessarily mean, just strange.
Yeah.
Either way.
Oh
But yeah,
man.
so kind of moved on to bigger and better things, and then became a business analyst, and then moved on to become a product manager, which is what I do now. So
Nice. That's awesome. Well, I'm glad you're happy and healthy and doing well.
yeah, so far
Good
so
times.
good.
All right. So before we move on, anything else you were desperate to talk to mention, or have you done any traveling? Any
Oh my gosh,
trips?
yeah, like, so I am, unmarried and childless at the time, so I'm like, I'm gonna take advantage of this and go wherever I want to go. Um, what else? I'm like, in 2015, I lost my dad.
I'm sorry to hear that.
Um,
I thought I had remembered that, and
yeah,
so
I did. He was battling with lung cancer for a couple years. And so, I was going pretty regularly to Louisiana because at this point he was living with one of my brothers in Louisiana. We were going like once a month to visit him toward the end. And so he and I were having lots of talks, and one of the times that I was there, I got there really late that night because I would basically like log off of work in the evening and just drive to Louisiana. So I'd get there like
Mm-hmm.
11 o'clock at night. And I got there and he was still awake for whatever reason. They stopped telling him that I was going because he would just sort of obsess over it if he knew. And so I surprised him and I went in and checked on him and he just started kind of like, you know, waxing poetic, however you want to say. Like he just
Yeah.
was like, you could tell he'd been like thinking about things in his life and um he just kind of popped off out of nowhere and was like, I just want you to know I'm really proud of you. Um, but like, I do worry about you a little bit because you just move through life so quickly and like you're always working and you're so driven and you're so like whatever. And I just don't want you to miss out on things. And I was like, oh, like, oh, okay. Just wasn't expecting to like start crying right now. Um, and then and my dad was a jokester, right? Like a storyteller, a jokester. He loved to prank people. So he'd pop off and say the wackiest stuff. And so the very next thing out of his mouth was, imagine a young dog running through a field of tall grass. And I was like, oh my God, was this all a setup for a joke? So I'm like, okay. And so he's like, that dog is just running through the field just so fast and he's so excited. But like if he doesn't stop every now and then and look up, he's gonna get lost and like not know where his home is and not know where he's going and because he won't be able to see through the grass. And I'm like, oh God, you're like getting deep on me. And then he told me, he's like, like you kind of remind me of that. Like I just want to make sure that you stop and look up every now and then. And I'd always talk to him about like, I really want to go, like I want to go to Europe, I want to travel the country, I want to do all of these things. But then when he'd ask me about him, I'm like, I just feel like I can't take off work, or I don't have the money, or I don't have
Mm.
the time. And I mean, that's what he was alluding to basically. And so the very next year, like we lost him in October of 2015, unfortunately. But like after he had that talk with me, I booked a trip to London and Paris with Jenny Horsley and another one of her friends, because I was like, I needed that, you know,
Yeah.
that sage
Catalyst.
fatherly advice. I needed for him to point that out. And then I was like, I have to stop putting things off and do this. So
Mm-hmm.
basically since that trip, I have just tried to like travel as much as I can. Now, that's the only time I've left the country, and it was like I went into it with a bang, and then since then has been much smaller trips. But um, fortunately, I've had the opportunity to travel with friends too. Sometimes I travel by myself. Sometimes I travel with a group of friends. We've gone to New York and Chicago. I took my niece to Hawaii. I went with
Oh,
Ginny and
wow.
Monica to Hawaii. So I've gone to Hawaii twice in the last few years. Um, I took a kind of cross country road trip with my mom at the end of 2020 because I'd been at my job 10 years and they give you a sabbatical for a month. And so I took some time off and did
Nice.
a road trip with her. And we went to visit my brother in Portland because he was kind of working back and forth in here in Portland. So basically, any chance I can, I try to travel
That's
now.
great.
So I have a California trip coming up in October, but obviously the last 2 years has put a bit of a damper on
Yeah, a
that.
little
But
bit.
still trying to get it in where I can.
Yeah. Well, I'm sorry to hear about your dad, and it's at least fortunate that you had some of that time. Sometimes it can happen suddenly, and then you're left like, I didn't get to say what I wanted to say.
Yeah,
Um,
very fortunate. Like I'm fortunate that we kind of knew it was coming and had that time. It's also hard. Like, so I don't know if Jessica lost her dad in the sixth grade, and she and I have sort of compared that situation.
mm-hmm.
And she's like, I don't know. She's like, I don't, because her dad kind of went more suddenly, and she's like, I don't know if it would have been easier or harder because watching your dad
Yeah.
like it
Right.
die is super hard. And so I almost kind of wish I didn't have that experience. I am
Yeah.
so glad that I got to have time, like intentional time with him. And I got to ask him questions and share stories with him and make sure he knew how much I loved him and all of that. But it was really hard to see this like, like epitome of masculinity kind of wither into
Right.
this,
Yeah.
childlike state again.
And you also
So
know, they don't want that to be a burden for you too, but there's no preventing it. It's like my dad's made several comments about that. Just take me out to the pasture, and if it's going to be, which of course would never happen, but at the same time,
Bob.
yeah, yeah, but yeah, exactly. But I mentioned that because I wrote a letter to him it was probably a couple years ago now, that just to have the opportunity to say what I want to say, before anything might happen. There's a song there's a cover Jack White did of a song called Death Letter, and I forget who the original song was, but an old blues song. But anyway, so I called them my death letters. So I need to write some more of those to people, just to be like, hey, I just want to say this, just to get it off, which I
I love
recommend to
that.
anybody. It was a
Yeah,
good opportunity.
I love that. I feel like in the last few years, especially, unfortunately, I have like all my life, I've had so much. I'm laughing, but it's not funny. I have a very twisted sense of humor about all of it. But I've had a lot of death in my life. Unfortunately, I've kind of been going to funerals since I was a kid, so I'm a little like jaded by it now. Like not jaded, a little immune to it a
Right.
bit. And
Desensitized,
I
maybe.
do always find it fascinating that I'm like, why do people wait until someone is dead to say
Yeah.
the nicest things about them,
Right.
to tell them how they truly feel, to tell them what they love about them or admire about them or the memories that they have about them. And I know that it's weird for people to have this, like, like when I say, like, tell people this stuff now, like tell them while they're still alive, and they're like, well, that's weird. I'm like, okay, fine. Like, wait
Wait
till they're
until
dead and they
it
never
won't
hear
affect
it.
them at all, and wait till they're gone. Yeah.
So
It is
yeah, I love
hard. It is surprisingly hard to be actively kind. In fact, the Casey Muckley, she talked about when her husband proposed. They did this. I forget how many acts. It was during the day. It was a day of benevolence, and they would go around and do kind things. Like that's it feels weird to even do that, right? It's like it's horrible how weird it feels just to be kind sometimes. Or I've thought about giving just people random compliments. And it's like, are they going to think you're making fun of them or you're being, sarcastic sometimes? And I'm sure they wouldn't, but it's like, it is hard to bring yourself to do that. And I hate
Yeah,
that about humans.
that's not hard for me at all. So you're just a terrible
Oh,
person.
maybe that's just me. Okay, yeah, I'm just horrible. No, you're right. That sounds right. That tracks.
Oh gosh, no, I get what you're saying. I have tried because I try to be an advocate of, like, if I think that this is the way that the world should be, I should probably do it, right? So
Yeah.
as soon as I started thinking, like, why don't people just tell people things when they think it, while they're thinking it, or like whatever. So I have intentionally tried to start being better about, like, there was a couple years ago where I just, like, I group texted all of my friends, like, you guys know I love you, right? Like, I love you. In case something happens tomorrow, like, I want you to know that. And
Yeah.
they're like, are you dying? And I was like, no,
Yeah,
I'm
that's
just
funny.
telling
Yeah.
you. I'm just telling you I love you.
I did that the other
um
day. It was a couple months ago. I just texted my mom. I was like, "Hey, love you, mom." It was kind of later at night, and she texted back like, "Is everything okay?" I was like, "Yeah, I'm just, just trying to put
can
some
we
happiness out
normalize
there."
telling people we love them? Like, or just saying nice things, like, like when the recent, not to get political in the least bit, because I'm just going to mention it and then we don't have to talk about it,
All right.
but the recent law that was overturned,
Yes.
I had a male friend, reach out to me with sort of like genuine condolences about it. And I, at first, I was like, that's a little odd. Like, cause like nobody else did that. And he didn't owe me an apology. You know what I mean? Like, it's
Right.
not his fault that
Right.
this happened. But then afterwards, I was like, you know what? No, that was like super sincere and nice of him. And so, like, a day later, I texted him, like, by the way, thank you for doing that. You didn't have to. I know that you know that. But I wanted to make sure he knew that I was like, that I sincerely appreciated it. So instead of just letting that pass by, I made sure to recognize it. So,
Alrighty. Well, speaking of messages and telling people how you feel about them, this will be a good transition to our conclusion because I've got what you wrote in my yearbook
oh, stop.
from I think this is our junior year, maybe sophomore year.
Okay.
And then I'll give a little prepared statement, and then you'll have your Liz quiz,
Oh, gosh.
your
Oh,
special challenge,
gosh.
as I warned. All right. Um, okay, here's what you wrote in my yearbook. And for some reason, you outlined it with the words long message, really long, long message written around the actual message. Maybe I said don't write something long or something, and or
Well,
write me
actually,
something
I
long.
am
Or
fairly confident that you
yeah,
said, like that. And I was like, oh, you don't want me to put a long
let's
message?
do
I'll
it
show you.
anyway. All right. You said, Mark, I love you. You are the greatest guy ever. Sorry about the yiddins. I have no idea what that is. Yidins? Sorry about the yiddins. I don't know. Okay. And then you put a little squiggly face. I'll always remember math and keyboarding. Never stop doing the Raptor and Lady Whitaker. I had forgotten about Lady Whitaker. Lady Whitaker, yes.
Oh my
That's
gosh.
so stupid.
Yeah.
I did stupid voices. These different. Lord Whitaker was actually a little better. He was more like the Thornberry dad, like I'm Lord Whitaker, like that British, that drawly
Yeah.
British nasally. Although I use the Lady Whitaker voice when I read, because I taught Romeo and Juliet like every year that I taught, and so I would read the nurse's role in that voice.
Nice.
And it was the kids like it. It's really terrible. It's really shrill and high voice. All right, you said every time you do that, I almost peed in my pants. Well, this one time I did. Oops, too much info. JK, we have to do something this summer. You itch, and you literally spelled ITCH. Good times in Miss Sullard's class. I live down the street from you, and we don't know each other's numbers. Ha, that's wrong. Poot. And then you wrote your phone number. Is that now? Do you still have the 7532 number?
No.
Okay.
I don't know what.
Old school. That might have been your house. Was that your home number, home phone?
That sounds like.
Yeah.
I think that was because I had my own like phone line in my bedroom. That may have been my.
Yeah, I wonder if my dad still has his landline at that house. I don't think he does. I can't remember now.
I'm like half convinced that I was just putting in random words to take up more space. Maybe I don't know
Probably.
why I called you an itch. I don't know what that's about.
Good times. High schoolers, man, writing in each other's yearbooks. You never know when it'll come back.
Hard. I tried so hard to find my yearbook and I could not find it. But if I do, I'm gonna find you in it and see what you put.
Yeah, you got to. You got to. All right. So here is just a little prepared statement for you. Speaking of saying nice things, it's funny that we mentioned that because I've been trying to intentionally do that with this podcast with the people I interview.
Oh,
just
nice.
say this little statement at the end. Elizabeth, because of your steadfast friendship of you, of me, and everybody you know, I am sincerely grateful and better for having known you. You are just one of the hundreds of kind, generous, and benevolent people I know in a world where we need every single one we can get. Please keep being awesome, doing awesome things, and traveling to awesome places, all right?
I will. Thanks.
Awesome. And now that I've been nice, I can be mean and give you a quiz of which you have zero prior information. All right, your last name is Fontenot, which is is it French? I'm assuming it's French, right? French for
yep.
fountain.
Oh, yep. Uh-huh.
Sure, yes. All right, so here are 5 questions about fountains.
Oh, God.
You have 7 seconds to answer. Yes, I stole this from Wait, Don't Tell Me. Casey called me out on it last episode.
Okay.
So I'll just give them a shout out. It's a great show. NPR. All right, number 1. What is the largest fountain in the world? Is it A, the Trevi Fountain in Rome, B, the Dubai Fountain in Dubai, C, the Bellagio Fountains in Las Vegas, or D, the Crown Fountain in Chicago?
B.
Dubai is correct. Ding, 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 ding. They've got the tallest building too, right? I'm pretty sure. All right, number 2. How high does the Dubai Fountain shoot water? Is it A, 500 feet, B, 550 feet, C, 600 feet, or D, 650 feet?
Oh gosh. 600 feet.
Incorrect. It's 500. I tried to trip you up by making the right
answer.
answer.
Not that impressive. I mean, geez.
It's only 500. It could have been 650. All right.
Yeah.
3. The use of water fountains dates back to 2000 BC, but these were archaic designs at best. It wasn't until which empire came along when water fountains were engineered with unique pressurized systems and other features? Was it A, the Mongolian Empire, B, the Turkish Empire, C, the Ottoman Empire, or D, the Roman Empire?
The Roman Empire?
Correct. Ding, 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 ding. All right, number 4. Speaking of the Romans, they constructed multiple irrigation canals from higher elevations, funneling water to the main city. Since the canals were constructed at elevation, blank forced the water down, thus creating pressure. Was it A, hydraulic pumps, B, motors, C, Roman workers, or D, gravity?
Um, gravity?
Correct. I do
Yes.
not believe there were any hydraulics or motors at the time of the Romans.
No,
Uh,
I liked the Roman workers
just shoving the water.
shoving
Keep
the water.
pushing. All right, and last but not least, number 5. The name of the famous Trevi fountain in Rome means what? That's Trevi, Trevi. A, 3 ways. B, 30 gallons. C, really great. Or D, Trevor.
Trevor. Okay. Um, Trevi means means 3 ways.
Correct. Ding, 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 ding. You did pretty good. 4 out of 5. That's not bad. That's an 80.
All that GT education I
That's
have.
right. That's right. Doesn't go away. There's a reason you're in there with us. You belonged, Liz.
That's right. Oh my gosh.
Well, this was good. This was good to catch up. Oh man, what a
I feel
trip.
like I didn't get to ask anything about you.
That's all right.
Um,
I'm not that interesting.
I'm not important.
I talk too much about myself.
Do you? Do you?
Usually, yeah. On the other episodes, sometimes I feel like I did.
Oh, good. Well, you clearly didn't have that problem with me. You won't ever have that problem talking to me. That makes me sound like all I do is talk about myself. But
We're
it's
humans. We
kind
need you. You need some. You got to talk about yourself. If you don't feel like you're important, that's not good.
no, I mean, like, I don't necessarily need to feel important, but I could just talk to anyone about anything. I could talk to a wall, and keep a conversation going. So,
Nice.
for one last thing, I did want to share, and if you
Yeah.
cut this out, then that's fine too. But I have been like in the last since basically 2020, so since COVID, I've been working and volunteering with a rescue group
Oh, nice. Yeah.
um, called Fort Worth Abandoned Animal Alliance. And so I actually foster with them. I also volunteer and like make items, like make merchandise for them to sell, to make money to put back into the rescue for the animals. So I know right now Fort Worth is hurting. Like the shelters are so full, and they're
Well,
having
apparently,
to.
like, didn't a bunch of people adopt during COVID, and then they ended up giving them back because they didn't really want the responsibility, but they were cooped up and
It was, I think a lot of it was so people adopted during COVID because they started staying home, like working from home.
yeah,
And they're like, oh, I'll be home all the time with the dog. And then once they had to go back in the office, they really didn't, have. They were like, oh, it's not fair that they have to, where I'm not there all day or what have you. So it's kind of, it's a vicious cycle. Not enough people spaying and neutering, people, breeders out there making more puppies that don't, like
yeah, that's the worst.
people just go to the shelter and adopt because there are phenomenal dogs in the shelters. They just are scared. And so
Yeah,
they get labeled as aggressive because they don't want to be locked in a cage and they don't want people sticking their fingers in at them or whatever.
right.
But once you get them out and they can decompress a little bit, like they're amazing, loving dogs. And I say that from a place of I used to have dog anxiety and like fear of dogs. And have overcome that. I started fostering in 2020 when the shelter started shutting down to the public. And
Hmm.
they were going to euthanize a bunch of dogs just because they couldn't let people come in and adopt. And since then, I like my whole world is different. And I have 2 dogs of my own, and I foster. Right now, I have a hospice, like senior foster. So if you ever see me post Tink on Facebook,
Okay.
she's like 15 years old and she's mostly deaf and going blind and has all these health issues, but she still runs this house. Okay. Um,
Matriarch.
so so I just wanted to throw a little what's the word? A little something out for Fort Worth Abandoned,
Shout out.
Animal
Shout out.
Alliance, and shout out, yeah, and then also rescue and adopt. Don't
Yeah.
shop, please.
Don't go to puppy
Spay and
factories,
neuter.
people.
Yeah, spay and neuter your animals, and if anybody is able to help or donate or what have you, do it because all of the rescues in the area and the shelters are just really hurting right now. So
Awesome. Well, yeah, I'll throw a link to that
that's it.
in the show notes, and
Awesome.
I will also say, yeah, we got our dog from the Humane Society, and I think both of our cats were shelter as well. And yeah, my mom for a while she had a bunch of cats in her neighborhood, so she would set out the little, not like traps. They sounds bad to say trap, but you would trap like traps. They sounds bad to say trap, but you would trap them and then take them and get them
Oh,
spayed and
yeah.
neutered and then re-release them just so they wouldn't keep breeding.
Yep, there's a program in
But,
Fort Worth to help with
yeah.
that, because there is like a huge feral cat
Yeah.
situation in Fort Worth, and so they have a program where they will trap them, take them to get spayed, and then
Yeah.
bring them back to release them.
Yeah, good stuff. Yep, we love our puppy, Pepper. All right. Well, Liz, I've taken up way too much of your time as it is, so thank you for doing this. Thanks. This is great. It was great to catch up. We actually had run into each other at like Lowe's this was like
Oh
a
my
year or
gosh.
two ago, I think.
Yes, like in
And
the barbecue pit area.
oh yeah, that's right. Yeah. Did you ever you were buying one, right? Or you were
My
helping your
brother
brother?
was.
Yeah.
Yeah, my brother was. He did buy one. I don't know if he bought the one we were talking about. I don't know, but he did buy one.
And we still need to collaborate on the art. Is that still in the works?
Oh, yep. Yes, sir.
So message me because I'll do whatever you need. Because I just finished my last project that I've got on the list so far. So I'm kind of freed up to do a little bit of that. So that'll be fun.
Cool. I would love that.
Yeah. All right, Liz Fontenot, Fontenot, Fontenot.
I like to go by Liz Fontenot. So
Liz Fontenot. Oh, that's good. That's clever. That's a good way to end. And I hope everybody else agrees that you have been fun to know.
Me too. Otherwise,
right.
It's really like weird to call myself that.
She's the worst. Oh my gosh, she's
the worst. I hate her.
the
Oh,
least
she's
fun.
fun to know.
All right, Liz. Thanks a lot.
Mark.
Have
Talk
a
to you later.
good rest of your summer. Try to keep cool, man.
Oh, you too.
All right.
Thanks.
Bye. All right, that was the show. Thanks for listening, everyone. Today's episode was recorded by Mark Dye. Our editor is Mark Dye, and he is also the executive producer. The intro and outro music was composed by Mark Dye in high school. It's really just me doing this. To support the How the Heck Have You Been podcast, visit artbymarker.com and buy some cool art. Thanks, y'all.